My spinning logo. What this is about? What this is about is life spins. And the world is spinning sometimes. And if you're not bolted down, and if you're not nailed in, you're not engraved into the wisdom of God, you will be spun off. Life will go crazy for you. And so what I'm trying to project here is that the more you're bolted in, the more you're bolted down into the wisdom of God, and you let wisdom become an adventure for you, you're going to have a better and a better and a better life, okay? Now, here's where I want to start this off. How many of you are familiar with the dummy books, something for dummies, right? Have you heard of that? Good. Most of you have. That's great. Well, the thing, according to Wikipedia, it says that there are 1,600 of these different dummy titles, Dummy for this, dummy for that. And so what it's intended to do is make the complicated simple for us, okay? So I want to just show you a couple of the titles here and run through a few of them. For parenting for dummies. Now, how many knows that might be something some people need to read? Huh? Parenting for dummies. How about personal finances for dummies? Would that be something that some people need to read? Personal finances for dummies. Investing for dummies. And others that I'm not going to just keep throwing these images up. We got computers for dummies, Catholicism for dummies, Spanish for dummies, home buying for dummies, bipolar disorder for dummies. Huh? Golf for dummies, boating for dummies. There was a day I needed that. Boating for dummies, auto repair for dummies, the internet for dummies, fishing for dummies, the Bible for dummies, grilling for dummies, and on and on and on. There's 1,600 of these things. So, and they even have one that's called Sex for Dummies, and this in its 3rd edition. Dr. Ruth here. I didn't know anybody was that dumb. I thought, that just kind of. And the common customer comment is that it takes these complex issues that we have to deal with and simplifies them and puts them at a level where normal people, common people, just like you and me, we can get it. We can go to the bookshelf and grab the dummy series that we need and make that applicable to our life. Well, this is the way Proverbs works, and I wanted to relate it this way. You see, the book of Proverbs is the ageless wisdom of God. And we tend to think that you got to be like a scholar to figure out how God operates and how God works. And no, that's not what Proverbs shows us. Proverbs shows us that it makes it at eye level for all of us, and it makes the most complex issues of life simple, and puts it at eye level for us so that we can walk in, as it were, to the store, God's wisdom store, and walk up to the dummy section that we need, and we can just grab it and make that applicable for our own lives for whatever issue it is that we need. We don't have to have a theological degree to understand Proverbs. We don't have to do the Greek and Hebrew word studies. We don't have to do all that stuff. It's very, very simple. I wonder how many people could be spared some of the dumbest things they've ever done had they just went to the store and got the dummy book from the book of Proverbs that they needed and made that applicable to my life. And I'm not talking about everybody else, but I'm talking about me too. There have been times in my life I should have gone to the dummy store, I should have went to the book of Proverbs and made that applicable in my life. So here's where we're going. This is what I'm after. And there are dominant themes to the book of Proverbs. The book of Proverbs is not set up as most other Bible books are. It's not set up in chapters. And so, you go, okay, I'm going to read the chapter that talks about marriage, or I'm going to read the chapter that talks about rearing children, or I'm going to read the chapter about finances. That's not how Proverbs sets out. It has all of these different things, topics, and all kind of jumbled up through there. And I was thinking, why, God, did you do it that way? Why? Well, I was thinking about it. Well, that's how life is, isn't it? I mean, you get up in the morning, you may have to deal with your spouse. You need some marital wisdom. And you may have to then deal with a child. You need some wisdom for dealing with this child. Or you may go to work and you may have to deal with your boss or with your employees. Or you may need some integrities. You have an opportunity you may have an opportunity to not have integrity. And and you got to have the wisdom there. So in a day's time, there's going to be several issues of life that you're going to need wisdom about. And so as you read one chapter of the book of Proverbs, 99.9% of the time, something in that one chapter is going to be something you're going to need today. And so God's made it that way. So if you'll just read some Proverbs, you're going to get some insights into wisdom. The book of Proverbs is one of the most colorful, and I want to say it this way, condensed book. I mean, it says things so sharply, so quickly. For example, I'm going to give you some examples of verses before I really hit into what I'm after today. Just opening up for us, because if I can open the book of Proverbs up to us today, that's going to be my goal. You're going to have a brand new perception of the book of Proverbs as you leave than you had when you came in. It's going to be a book that really has meaning to you when you leave. Proverbs chapter 26 and verse 22, very colorful, very on the point, condensed down. What dainty morsels rumors are. All right, let's ponder that just a second. Dainty morsels, that's colorful word picture. Piece of candy, dainty little morsel, rumors are. You know, we're going through life and we hear somebody with a rumor and our ears perk up and we want to eat it. We want to get it. We want to hear it. He goes on, but they sink deep into one's heart. What does that mean? Well, what happens is we hear this rumor. From that moment on, our heart is different towards that person we heard the rumor about, whether it be true or whether it be false. Their character has changed to us. Their reputation has changed to us. Their integrity has changed to us because of what? That one little dainty morsel. It took Proverbs 12 words to say that. It took me 72 words to try to explain it. And probably more than that as I talked it. It condenses it down. It makes it very, very colorful. But it makes it so we can all get it. Another one, Proverbs 15:15. All the days of the oppressed are wretched, but the cheerful heart has a continual feast. Well, what are we saying here? This is a proverb about your attitude towards life. How do you get out of bed? You get out depressed, down, pushed down, not looking forward to life. Your attitude will determine what kind of a day you have. You can have a wretched day. Or you can even have a seemingly tough day, but if you've got the right attitude about it and find something positive in it, you can make that bad situation a party. It can be a continual feast. Your attitude towards life determines how your life goes. And so it makes it very colorful. It makes it very clear. It points it out. It just bang, here it is. Proverbs 27:14 talks about this. It says, if a man loudly blesses his neighbor early in the morning, it will not be taken as a curse. If you want to get cussed out, crank your lawnmower up at 7 o'clock in the morning with your neighbor trying to sleep in. Now, when I came up here, we moved into the house that we're in. We came from the country, and we weren't used to close neighbors. And so one morning, I'm out there, and I want to get out and cut grass before it gets hot. I crank up my lawnmower. Well, my neighbor is the city attorney. And he comes walking out like, Delbert, what are you doing? He wasn't blessed. Even if I had been cutting his grass, he would have not thought much about that. And it kind of makes me understand why I am the way I am in the mornings. I don't like to be bothered in the mornings. That's my time. That's me and God. We're good to go. We're having our moment there. And some of you laugh at me and point at me, but I know some of you don't even want to talk when you wake up in the morning. Don't talk to me. Don't bless me. And so Proverbs makes this colorful. It makes it very open to us so that we can get it. We can get it. It uses graphics. It uses graphic images that we all probably have seen to get its point across. Here's one, Proverbs 26:11. As a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool repeats his folly. How many have seen that happen? Ooh, gross, right? I used to have a pack of dogs. I would go rabbit hunting, and I had a pack of rabbit dogs, and I've seen this numbers of times, and I would think, how gross is this? So it says, how many of you know people, though, that do the same thing? They have done something in life that really messed them up, made them sick, made life sickening to them. Something happened that was sour, something happened that was bad in life, something happened that wasn't good, but they returned, and they did it again, and they did it again, and they did it again. So what we have here, what we've got to understand is that what Proverbs is trying to get us to see is that this is what folly is. It's going back and doing the same thing again and again. So Proverbs is colorful. Proverbs is condensed. Proverbs is plain. It just condenses it down for us, and it gets it so we can get it. But Proverbs is deep. I want you to get it. I mean, it's one of the deepest books because of its simplicity. Here it is in Proverbs 11:17. Let's look at this one. Your own soul is nourished when you're kind. You understand that? There you go. Thank you. I knew something wasn't right, but that's good. Your own soul is nourished when you are kind. Now we all understand that when we're good to people, when we do something kind, that something alive happens within us. When we're good to people, we feel good about things, and we get a big smile on our face, and we feel good. Something comes alive in us. But we don't know this. This is what the rest of the verse says. Your own soul is nourished when you are kind, but you destroy yourself when you are cruel. Now we think when we do something mean to somebody else, we're harming them. No. Proverbs is deep. The person you're harming is you. When you do something good, something comes alive in you. When you do something cruel or mean to somebody, something inside of you goes sour. Something inside of you decays. Something inside of you dies. And it's really you you're harming. And that's pretty deep. So Proverbs is colorful. Proverbs is condensed. Proverbs doesn't take, you don't have to be a theologian to get it. It's simple. It's practical. It just puts it out there for us. And it's so practical. I'll read you this one in the aspects of practicality. Chapter 20, verse 4 says, if you are too lazy to plow in the right season, you'll have no food at the harvest. That was pretty practical, right? Hey, if you're too lazy to get up and go to work when you got work to go to, don't be surprised when Christmas time comes and you don't have money to buy Christmas gifts. Don't be surprised when the season for vacation comes and you don't have money to go on vacation. Or don't be surprised when bill season comes and you don't have money to pay your bills. Pretty practical. It's simple. It's practical. It's in your face. It's condensed down. It's graphic. It's amazing. It's an amazing book. Proverbs 31:10 through 11, another practical one. Who can find a virtuous and capable wife? Spouse, we can use it either way. She or he is worth more than precious rubies. What's what we're saying here? Listen, in reality, there just aren't that many out there. And when you find one, you got a precious item. Hold on to her or him. It's pretty practical. It's just so simple, but it's so deep and it's so true, and it makes you think. How important is spousal selection? Pretty good, huh? Pretty important. So, wisdom is colorful, it's graphic, it's deep, it's practical, and it's innumerable. The topics that Proverbs touches is innumerable. It's just something new every time you go through it. No other book in the Bible is like Proverbs. So, if you want to be a wise person, this is the book for you. And I challenge you, don't miss a one of these series. Don't miss a one of these lessons. Because we are going to get in it. We're going to be graphic. We're going to get in your face. We're going to make it condensed down. It's going to happen. And we're going to go out of here a lot wiser than we came in. That's the goal. So don't miss any of them. So what I want to do is, for the remainder of our time today, is talk about the dominant theme in the book of Proverbs. The dominant theme. And it's pursuing wisdom. The pursuit of wisdom. That's the dominant theme. You see, a lot of people think that the older they get, the wiser they get. Some of the dumbest people I know are old. And some of the smartest people, the sharpest people that's got it going, man, are young. No, you don't get wise because you get old. We become wise because we pursue wisdom. You become wise because you seek after it and you look for it. You engineer your life. You navigate your life so that you can have it good, and that's always navigating down the paths of wisdom. So I want to read you this verse, these verses, Proverbs 3:13. Blessed is the person who finds wisdom, who pursues wisdom. And here's what I want us to get today: who has an adventure with wisdom. See, wisdom is an adventure. Blessed is the person who goes this way. The person, the man who gains, again, that thought of pursuing it, getting it, who gains understanding. For, here's something very interesting, for she. Whoa. She. Wisdom is a she. In the book of Proverbs. My wife said, yep. Isn't that interesting? So I'm opening it up for you. I really want the book of Proverbs to be something we get. Okay? She is more profitable than silver. Wow. Wisdom's better than having a fortune. She's more profitable than having silver and yields better returns than gold. She is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. Nothing. That's a big promise. Nothing. Nothing is as good as pursuing wisdom. Nothing. With her, nothing is compared with her. Long life is in her right hand. You live longer. In her left hand are riches and honor. Just because you're wise doesn't mean you have to be poor. Her ways are pleasant ways. And all, what'd you say all? All her paths are peace. Now it may not seem that at the moment. But at the end of the way of wisdom is peace. All of them. She is a tree of life. Interesting. Where does the tree of life first show up in the scriptures? Where? Genesis. Adam, Eve, right? You can eat of this one. It's the other one you don't eat of. But what they do, they went the way of folly. And they went to the wrong tree, the one they shouldn't have. And they ate. And they lost everything. Now, I'm not taking away the literal fruit thing. I'm not trying to do that. But I think there's more than that. She is a tree of life. To those who embrace, pursue, have an adventure, hold on to her. Those who lay hold of her will be blessed. That's a promise. That's a promise of God. So, wisdom is to be pursued, but what I want to get on here is that 10 times in those verses that I read to you, she or her is a reference to wisdom. She or her. 10 times in those verses that I read to you. What's that about? What's that about? Well, when the book of Solomon, when the book of Proverbs was originally written by Solomon, he was a man, of course, coming out of the mind of a man to his son, who's growing up and is going to follow the paths of a man. So he puts it in a way that a man can get it. He says, okay, I want you to see wisdom as a lady that you pursue, that you go after. That if you get her and hold on to her, you'll be blessed. You're going to be a happy man. And in direct contrast with that, what he does is he introduces another woman, a whore. Shock? A harlot, whose name is Folly. So the book of Proverbs is opened up this way. Pursuing the woman who is going to take you to a great life in wisdom, or being seduced by the whore Folly and losing it all. Let me read it to you. Proverbs chapter 9, verse 13. The woman Folly is loud. She is undisciplined and without knowledge. She sits at the door of her house. Let all who are simple, simple-minded, simpletons, let all who are simple come in here, she says to those who lack judgment. There for you is an opening up of the book of Proverbs, probably in a way that most of you have never quite heard it, read it, or seen it. Every single verse is dealing with this. You can pursue the beautifulness, the woman wisdom, or you can be seduced by the whore Folly. One will lead you to the paths of long life and blessings and peace. One will lead you down the paths of destruction. So, I want to ask this today. It said here when we just read it, but is this true? Is obtaining wisdom really better than getting a fortune? Is it? It says that wisdom will bring you long life, it'll bring you honor, it'll bring you pleasant life. It takes you always down the paths of peace. So, hear me what I'm trying to say. According then, the way I read wisdom, the book of Proverbs, the way I read this is wisdom is telling me that if I am continually going through tough times with my finances, tough times with my marriage, tough times with my children, tough times with work, if I'm continually experiencing these things, then somewhere along the way I have been seduced by folly. Is that kind of what we're saying here? Now, is that true? And if I will pursue wisdom, then I avoid all of these travesties of life, and I have a pleasant life. I have a great life. Is that what happens? Is it better than anything? Nothing that folly can offer me can even compare to what wisdom can give me and promises me. Now, let's think about this. Let's ponder this. As the scripture says, let's reason together. So I want you to kind of scroll through people you know. And let's put ourselves in the mix. And I know a lot of people, you know a lot of people. So let's think about these people that we all know. And let's sort of look at them and let's see if this is true. This really works out this way. Let's kind of make it easy. So let's start with maybe a wise father. How many of you can see in your minds, and you know some wise dads? They've been wise about how they've done their home. They've been wise about how they've done their finances. They've been wise about how they've led their personal lives. They've been especially wise about how they've reared their children. How many of us can think of somebody like that? You see, what's that worth? What's that worth? Let me try to get us a little bit deeper here. You know, they know when to teach, when it's time to teach. They know when to admonish, when it's time to admonish, but they know when to encourage, when it's time to encourage. They know when to bless, but they know when to discipline. And they do it with wisdom. What's that worth to that child? What's that worth to the wife, to the mother of those children? What's it worth to have a husband, ma'am, who will rear your children the right way with wisdom? What's that worth? What's it worth to the child? I know a lot of men. I know a lot of men whose lives aren't working out real well. As I get to know them and talk to them and converse, I look and I find that there's this common denominator. That as I look into their lives, I find that their dad wasn't wise. They weren't raised under a wise father. And so that sets a bad start in life. That makes everything difficult in life. And I know flipping that around, I know some men whose lives are working out really well. Things are going great for them. And I look at their lives. And then once I get to know them and get to understand a little bit about them and hear a little bit about their history, I find out that they had a wise parent. You know, they had something that blessed their lives. There's this common denominator. And when I see somebody's lives that is really working well for them, their children love them, their wives love them, they're doing successful in the workplace, they got a little money, they're doing really well in life, and I look at this and I find out that there is this common denominator. Dads. Parents. Let me read you this, Proverbs 17:6. Children's children are the crown of old men. Now, I hate to say this, but I'm kind of beginning to realize what this really means. I don't want to be called an old man, but, that's not the worst thing that can happen. I don't like the alternative. They're the crown. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. And the glory, watch this is what I'm after, of children are what? Their fathers. The glory. If you had or have a wise dad, you got something special. You got something glorious. You got something that sets you in the race of life If you really kind of imagine the starting blocks as you're in a race of life, you're way out there. You got a big head start. Things will come so easy to you that were so hard for others to figure out. You already got that behind you because of a wise dad. Same way with a mom. What's that worth? What's it worth to a child to have a wise dad and a wise mom? Proverbs 31:28. Her children, this is the virtuous woman, her children stand and bless her. Her husband praises her. There are many virtuous and capable women, but in the world, a wise one, in the world, you surpass them all. Many women are capable, it says. But a wise mom, what's that worth? What's that worth? What's it worth to have a wise parent? Wise parents. Worth more than silver? Worth more than gold? Yeah. So let's flip that around now and turn it over a little bit. Let's say, what's it worth to have a wise child? Talk to me, parents. Is that worth something? When I say a wise child, I'm talking about a child maybe that stays out of trouble, that doesn't do drugs, that doesn't succumb to peer pressure, that makes wise decisions as a child, wise decisions as an adolescent, and wise decisions as a young adult, and as they grow into adulthood, they continue to make wise. What's that worth? I know a lot of people that's got some money, but their children are just killing them. Well, hello. Proverbs 15:20. A wise son brings joy to his parents or father, but a foolish child, man, despises his parents, despises his mother. Wise children make their parents happy. And there's nothing that compares to that. Nothing. How much is it worth to be wise? How much is it worth to chase wisdom and to have an adventure with wisdom? What's that worth? What's it worth to rear your children up with wisdom, letting them see you make wise decisions so that they can make wise decisions? Judy and I are so blessed to have these two beautiful, wise children. And when I get caught up in them, Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever that we all get together, I just sit back sometimes and hear my grandkids running around and hear my crowd. I can't keep up with them. And I'm a man who has a lot of energy, but I can't keep up with them. And I'm watching this happen, and I'm seeing Bonnie and I'm seeing Lance, and I'm just looking at this and I'm saying, whoa, there's nothing better than this. And they're making wise decisions. They've always been good kids, and they're not perfect, and they're not trying to project that they were, because if you've been here long enough, you know they weren't. But at the same time, they're wise. And Lance and I, we communicate with emails, and we don't do it as much now since he's closer than we did when he lived in Oklahoma. We would write these long emails to each other, and so back towards the end of last year, after I had decided to do this series on Proverbs this year, I wrote him because I knew he loved Proverbs, and for years and years and years, Lance has been reading a chapter a day in Proverbs, and so I knew that he liked it and he would appreciate that study. So he writes me back and he says, "Man," he says, "I really want to get your notes on that." He says, "Because I know it's really going to be good if you do it." And he says, "It's good. I'm excited about that." And he says, "I was thinking about what you said, and I started figuring up how long it's been since I began reading a chapter of Proverbs every day." And he says, "There's seldom a day that goes by that I don't do it still." And he says, "So I figured it up." He says, "I've read through the book of Proverbs over 240 times. Now, I don't know if you know Lance or not, but Lance is a fine, upstanding young man. I've had people come to me and say, "I wish I had a son like him." Every place he goes, every place he works, they just love him. And so what I'm trying to point out to you is, I'm not patting myself on the back, but I'm saying, what's it worth? What's it worth to pursue wisdom? What's it worth to have an adventure with wisdom? Is it worth more than gold? Is it worth more than silver? Proverbs 15:20, a wise son brings joy to his father, but a foolish person despises his mother. Man. Do you know anyone who works wisely? Do you know anyone that works wisely? They're diligent about work. They're conscientious. They're consistent. They're going to work. They're there on time. They do really good in the marketplace. Do you know anybody like that? In the scrolling as you're thinking about it. Proverbs 22:29 says, do you see a man skilled in his work? Watch. He'll serve before kings. He will not serve before obscure men. What does that mean? When a person is diligent about work, they're conscientious, they work hard, they're there on time, they do a good job, they're taken notice of by those above them, by their superiors, by the kings that are over them. The supervisors, their boss. And they are offered and lifted up and higher and higher and higher in life. And they just go right up the ladder. But somebody, on the other hand, flip that around, that is subdued and succumbs and seduced by folly, this person is pushed down and sometimes pushed out. They don't go to work on time. They don't do the job when they're there. And so they're pushed down and they become obscure. Their life is an obscure life. It means nothing. How much is that worth? What's it worth to pursue wisdom? I want to ask you this because I think it's so important. You know people, and I do too. They didn't go to Oxford, they don't have a degree, they're not a doctorate in anything. Maybe didn't even finish high school. But they worked diligently. And they've gone up and they've done well. They're wise. What if every single one of us, every single person in the whole world, what if every single person in the whole world worked wisely for 1 year? What would that do to the world? What would that do to poverty? What would that do to disease? What would that do to famine? See, the answer to the world's problems is right there in the book of Proverbs. What's it worth to pursue wisdom? Wisdom is telling us that no matter what the subject, whether it's parenting or rearing children or the workplace or the attitudes that we have about life or how we treat our physical bodies or how we treat our soul and our mind or how we treat our spirit, it matters. And if you do it wisely, the benefits, the blessings from it are tremendous. Blessed is the person who pursues wisdom. Blessed. See, it's pursuing wisdom that makes life good, and it's being seduced by folly that makes life wretched and bad. Now, I want to flip it around. I built the case, the importance of pursuing wisdom. What about the effects that we have when we neglect wisdom? What consequences happen there? I said that Proverbs calls the lack of wisdom folly, the woman folly. It's foolishness. It says the person who does these things is a fool. And when I read the book of Proverbs and I read some of those verses, it stings me. Why? Because I did it. I was a fool. And I don't like to be called a fool. And I don't like to think of myself as a fool. But obviously I was. And every single one of us can relate to that. There's been things and issues in our lives where we went the way of a fool rather than the way of wisdom. What were the consequences when we did it that way? I've been a fool. So from where does folly come? Where can we first attack folly? Let's look at this. Proverbs 22:15. Folly is bound up in the heart of what? The old man or where are you going to find folly first? In the heart of a child. It's bound up there. What does that mean? It's tied in there, man. It's tight. In the heart of a child. But the rod of discipline will drive it far from him or her. Now, we're going to talk about discipline next time, okay? But what we got to do is we got to replace folly with wisdom. This is the thought here. So I want you to think of the far-reaching implications here, and I want them to sting you. Because every time you went the way of folly, you've gotten stung. You were a fool. Me too. Now, we're not born with a clean slate, pointed in the way of victory. That's not how it happens. You don't come out that way. You come out full of folly, pointed in the way of failure. Every one of us, every child, is born this way. And without discipline, that folly makes them a fool. And they will fail. And so with the child, it's the parent's job to drive it out. But when you get older, you can't keep blaming your parents. When you get older, you got to take that rod of discipline and you got to use it on yourself. So let's think about this. How does this work out? Think about a baby. Think about a baby. A baby just moves on impulse and appetites. And so you got a baby and it's sitting in the sandbox and has an impulse of hunger. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. What does this baby do? Sitting in the sandbox and it's hungry. What does it do? Grabs a handful of sand and it's sand for lunch, right? Put the baby over there in the grass. Okay, we can't eat dirt. Put the baby over there in the grass. No folly's been driven out. No rod of, just put it over there in the grass. Now what does it do? Sitting over in the grass, same hunger. What does it do? Oh, I can't eat this. No, it's not. Eats grass. Plays in the commode. How do you stop a kid from playing in the commode? You got to drive that out of him. Am I right? All right, so this is it. And what I want us to get is this so desperately, because this is where it sinks in. Whatever we move in an impulse, without the wisdom of God, we're playing in a commode. Whenever we move in this, we're eating dirt. We're moving by impulses, and so much of life, and you got to hear this point, so much of life in folly is impulse. A shoplifter. Let's go back to the toddler. Let's go back to the toddler. Toddler sees another child playing with a toy that it wants. What does the toddler do? He just goes and takes what's not his or hers. Just wrestles it out, right? So, let's bring this up. Let's fast forward this video. This child now was never driven out of them. Now they're in a store and they see something they want. What do? Shoplift. They take it. They steal it. Because wisdom was never brought in to replace the folly. It works that way in every single avenue and area of our lives. We make vows to one another. We make vows to one another till death do us part. But with one impulse, we'll ruin our marriages. With one impulse, we'll not only ruin ours, but the marriage of somebody else. Because folly was never driven out. Anywhere you want to look, spending folly. We buy stuff we don't have money for. We don't have the money, but we buy it. We overspend. We spend money we don't have. Folly, never taught, never learned that lesson. How about addictions? Addictions? Impulse. Just an impulse. Get hung up on alcohol. Get hung up on drugs. Get hung up on pornography. Because of an impulse. And it takes us down the road of folly. We're seduced. And it'll bring us to ruin. This is why the scriptures talk about you got to pursue wisdom. You got to, when you get it, hold on to it. Don't let it go. When you find it, keep it. And if you will, he says you'll be blessed. in every single area of your life. There are consequences to folly, serious ones. Proverbs 22:15. Folly's bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of discipline, it takes discipline to drive it out of us. Every single one of us can relate to that. Now, I talk every day to people who have folly, who are experiencing folly crisis. And it's never their fault. It was their boss's fault. Their boss just didn't like them. Obviously, the boss didn't like them showing up 15, 20 minutes late or working or skipping, laying out of work. The boss just didn't like them. And so the boss selected them and fired them. And you start seeing these things and you start saying, whoa, there's some folly here. And it's never been driven out of your life, and now you're getting stung. Am I right? And this is how it goes down in our lives every single time in our lives. This is the way it works out. I talk to these people, and they have this self-pity party. God has selected them and selected them. I don't like you, so I'm just going to make all hell break loose on your life. No, listen to me. Somewhere down the line, this person was seduced by folly. And it's never been driven out. And until it's driven out, they're going to continue to be seduced by folly. So I want to finish up with three things, three quick points that will get us started into a life of wisdom. Number one, Jesus is wisdom. He has been made wisdom. And what you need is to take the hand of God and allow God, by Jesus Christ, to lead you out of folly and into wisdom. You will never have the wisdom of God if you don't have God in your life. It's that simple. You got to have God in your life. And what God is saying to you, whether you've been a Christian for 40 years or not, that's irrelevant. If you don't have God leading you into wisdom and you're pursuing wisdom, you're still going to mess up. But if you don't know Him and He's not in your life, you don't have a chance. Your life is going to be nothing but folly after folly after folly. He's saying today, you don't have to be a fool. Let me lead you. Take my hand today, and I'll make you wise. The second thing that I want to make sure that we get across is you've got to look at your life and ask your own self, where am I folly prone? Where do I keep like that dog going back and eating my vomit? What am I doing? And you got to read the book of Proverbs. And when one of these little short poppy things jumps on you, you got to take that as God talking to you. And write it down. Stick it on your refrigerator door. Put it on your mirror where you shave or powder or whatever. Put it on your computer screen. Put it someplace so that you'll be reminded, I am not real good here. And let the book of Proverbs begin to give you wisdom. And then number three, which is probably number one. If you run with dogs, you're going to get fleas. What am I saying? You run with dumb people, dumb gets on you. You run with fools, you're going to become a fool. If you want to be wise, you got to run with wise people. There is no other way. If there's an osmosis that happens. Proverbs 13:20. Whoever walks with the wise will what? Will become. I can't pray for you and drive a spirit of dumbness out of you and impart a spirit of wisdom. It doesn't work that way. You become wise because you pursue wisdom. You walk with wise people and it gets on you. You start making better decisions because you're around people that make better decisions. When you walk with wise, you will become wise. Whoever walks with fools will suffer harm. And people think they're too strong. I'm stronger than it. It's not going to get me. Yeah, okay. It will get you. There's not a one of us. If we get around it, it gets on you. And listen to me, it'll take you down. If you want to become wise, walk with wise people. It's better than gold. I want to challenge us all over this next month. And everybody who got my email the other day knows that now there's now 31 days in February, right? Listen, I tell them I'm getting to be an old man. I had a senior moment. I'm sorry. Call it not proofreading is what they do. But anyway, I want to challenge us for the next month, 31 chapters in Proverbs. For the next 31 days to read a chapter a day. And just see and let this work on us. And see if your decision making isn't sharpened, and see if you're not challenged in some ways, and you'll start saying, well, I hope he talks about this one, and then some of you will say, well, I hope he doesn't talk about this one. But let's get in this thing, let's get in this boat together, and let's enjoy this adventure. I want it to be an adventure for us. I want it to change us. I want it to change our church, but mostly I want it to change our lives so that we make great decisions. How many of you will join with me and commit along with me? And if you miss a day, it's okay, just read to the next. Okay? But we can do this. How many of you will commit with me to commit to read a chapter of Proverbs a day? Good. Father, thank you, Lord. We praise you. We love you. Thank you for today. Lord, again, once again, our hearts are crying out for Haiti. Lord, we can't get that off our hearts and minds. And Lord, again, we agree together for that. Lord, we thank you for our lesson today and our challenge that you've given to us, Lord God, to be wise people. We don't have to be fools. We don't have to be seduced. So, Father, I ask you now in Jesus' name that we'll all pursue and we'll go after wisdom. Heads bowed and eyes closed. Some of you are not where you need to be. Your life has been a zoo. It's been a zoo. Things go crazy. Man, and you know what the problem is, whether you've ever prayed a prayer to receive Jesus or not, it's just not been good. It hasn't worked out for you. So, you know that. All I want to do today, whether you've ever received Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior or not, all I want to do is challenge you today. Those of you who know you're not where you need to be with God, will you take the hand of Jesus and let him lead you into a life where you are blessed, pleasant things, where every path you go down is peace, where all things work out in your life, you live longer, you live happier, you be blessed. If that's you, and you just know you're not exactly where you need to be with God, you need to be a little wiser. If that's you, would you raise your hand right where you're sitting and allow me to pray for you? I see your hand right here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 10 of us in here. Thank you, Jesus.